Hi, thanks for stopping by Grains in Small Places. And today we're celebrating Haley's graduation. So this is an exciting time. I decided let's make some cupcakes. She chose the flavor and she chose my yellow cake with vanilla bean frosting. So I'm going to show you how to take that recipe and turn it into some cupcakes. So let's get started. Okay, so since we are making this for a larger crowd, I'm going to be doubling this recipe. So I will make sure to put a link to the recipe in the description box below. That way you have it for just the single recipe. If you want to double it, of course you could double it. So we're going to be using soft white wheat for this. And then I always like to add just a little bit of starch when I'm making my cake mixes. It just helps with the texture. And I think it helps hold some of the moisture in as well. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this on over to my mill. I'm using my Nutri-Mill Harvest Grain Mill, and I actually have a coupon code I can share with you. That coupon code is GRAINY, and it will give you $20 off your grain mill if you order through Nutri-Mill. Okay, and here is our fresh milled flour. I'm going to go ahead and add our starch to that. I like to use potato starch, but you can use cornstarch, you can use tapioca starch, arrowroot, any of those would be fine alternatives. I'm just gonna put that in there. And again, this is a double batch. And we're gonna go ahead and put in our salt, baking soda, and baking powder. I'm just gonna give this all a stir just to incorporate it with that freshly milled flour. And then we're gonna set this to the side. I'm gonna go ahead and get my eggs ready. Normally you would use 3 eggs. Today we're gonna be using 6. All right, we're gonna go ahead and set these to the side because we wanna have all of our ingredients to be room temperature. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab the mixer so we can work on the rest of the wet ingredients. We're gonna put in our olive oil, our softened butter, and the sugar, and then we're gonna cream that together for 3 to 5 minutes until it becomes lighter in color. It should increase in volume a little bit. Make sure to scrape the sides down as needed while you're going. Okay, so now I'm gonna slow this down and add my eggs in one at a time while it's still beating. The best I can anyway. I'm just gonna turn it up a tiny bit, but keep it still on the slow. Because I wanna make sure it gets mixed in between each one. And then we're gonna go ahead and turn that up a little bit and let that mix for about 1 to 3 more minutes, and it should get nice and fluffy. And we're just gonna make sure to scrape those sides down in between so everything is mixed evenly. But wow, that looks nice. A beautiful texture. Okay, and that's nice and fluffy. I'm gonna go ahead and add in the almond extract. Now this is optional, but if you've never tried it before in there, I really recommend that you give it a try. It just really makes it taste more like that authentic yellow cake. And then also we're gonna go ahead and use some vanilla extract. And then a secret ingredient, some white vinegar. I promise you will not taste that in the recipe. We're gonna give that a mix. The buttermilk and the yogurt. Okay, so then we're going to add in the flour mixture of the dry ingredients, about half of it. And then I actually was supposed to add in the yogurt after this half of the flour, and I completely forgot. But I think it'll be fine. We're going to mix that in slowly. Alrighty. Nope. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead. This is where you would put the yogurt in, mix it, and then add the other half of the flour in. Or the flour dry ingredient mixture. We're going to give that a mix. Okay, that's probably good with the mixer, and then I'm going to go ahead and take out the beaters and then fold the batter by hand the rest of the way. I don't want to over mix and deflate all of that lovely air. We did all of that hard work mixing that in, but I do want to make sure that everything is all incorporated evenly and that there's nothing, no dry flour left and no clumps of anything. This smells amazing. Okay, everything looks good. What I'm gonna do now is preheat my oven. And I know most recipes say to preheat your oven at the beginning of the recipe so that it's ready to go, but I like to allow all of this to sit for about 15 minutes before I bake it. That way all of the fresh milk flour can start absorbing the moisture. So that helps with most of the time. So that helps anytime you're working with fresh milled flour to allow the batter to sit just a little bit before you bake it or cook it. I like to line my pans with the little cupcake liners. It just makes such easier cleanup and nicer to take and easier for others to eat. And now that the batter has been sitting for about 15 minutes, I like to use my 1/4 cup measuring cup to fill all the wells. You're going to want to fill them about 2/3 of the way full, and it just, I find it ends up being right around the 1/4 cup. So we're going to go ahead and start filling. These are going to bake at 350 degrees and somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. It really depends on your oven, but you want to make sure that you don't overbake these, because if you overbake them, they can get dry. So you can always just check them with the toothpick test to make sure there's no wet batter. If you put the toothpick in there and it comes out and it looks like it's wet with like oil, that's fine. That does not mean that you have wet batter on your toothpick. You just don't want any wet batter coming off. Even if you check it with the toothpick and it ends up having crumbs that come off, that's fine too. You're just, like I said, not wanting any wet batter to come off. Okay, and I like to just give these a little tap on the counter to just kind of level out the top. And then into the oven they go. After these are done baking, you're going to want to let them cool in the pans for about 10 minutes before you remove them. Then remove them on a wire rack to finish cooling. So since we're staying near my mom, I was able to borrow her cupcake tin, so that was wonderful. So I can get these larger batches done a little bit faster. So I'm going to go ahead and load up the next one while these are baking. That way they can go straight into the oven, rather than having to wait for them to cool, remove them, then fill them, then bake the next batch. So thanks, Mom. Alrighty, first batch is done. Don't they look lovely? Next batch is going in. Alrighty, this batch is done and these ones are getting ready to go in. I went ahead and filled these. They're gonna go in and I'm just gonna keep doing this and until we're all finished. Okay, to make the vanilla bean frosting, you're going to take a whole vanilla bean, slice it long ways, and then just kind of scrape out the little vanilla seeds, I guess you would call it. Some people, I think, call it caviar. And then you're going to put that to the side. Again, this recipe is doubled, so I'm using 2. Matt's doing this for us today. If you're just making a regular single batch, you would just use 1. I'll make sure to put a link below to some vanilla beans. I usually just grab them off of Amazon because they're so much cheaper than buying them at the store. But you could also use vanilla bean paste. If you're in a pinch, you could just use vanilla extract, but the flavor just is so much better with using the real vanilla beans. Okay, so I made sure to pull my butter out so that it was nice and softened. So this has been sitting out. It's ready to go. You do not want melted butter, but you also do not want hard butter. All right, we're gonna start this out on low. You can see how nice and softened it was. It pretty much instantly got creamy, so we're gonna go ahead and turn up the speeds once that happens. Okay, now that that's ready to go, I'm gonna go ahead and put in the vanilla bean. I'm gonna add in just a dash of that vanilla extract. But most of our flavor is coming from the vanilla bean. Oh, this is a double batch. 2 dashes. And normally I would say to add a pinch of salt, but this is actually salted butter, so I'm not gonna add any additional salt to this. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a little spin. Alrighty, and then goes the powdered sugar. So the amount of powdered sugar is going to vary depending on how sweet or not sweet you like this. Okay, so a single batch, start this on slow, a single batch of this will call for 3 cups of powdered sugar with 3 cups of butter. We're doubling this recipe, so I'm going to use 6 and 6. So we'll see how we got. I went ahead and put in 4 for now. Okay, and then we want to make sure that we are still scraping down our sides so that everything is evenly incorporated. I'm going to check this for flavor and see if we need to add more sugar to it. So I like my buttercream a little on the the less sweet side, but most of the rest of my family likes it very sweet, so I try to balance it in between so it's not sickly sweet, but also still sweet enough so that the cupcakes taste like delicious cupcakes. So I'm going to go ahead and add in that 6th cup, mix that in slowly, and we'll see where we go from there. Alrighty, and then the last thing we're gonna add is just a little bit of milk. This is a double batch again, so I'm putting double the amount I normally would. The amount of milk may vary for you depending on how thick or thin you're looking for your buttercream. I just kind of go by eye and then give it a taste. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and scrape the sides again, making sure everything is incorporated. This is beautiful, beautiful buttercream. Okay, I have a new tasting spoon. Just gonna give this a taste and see if this is where we want it. Alrighty, I gave that another blend and I think we are ready to go. Just gonna see if I can. Nice and thick. This will be beautiful on the top of those cupcakes. And you can see the little specks of the vanilla bean all throughout. So that's awesome too. One more blend around. All right, so now it's ready to go ahead and we can pop it in our piping bag and go ahead and start piping the cupcakes. These disposable piping bags really make this job go so much easier. I'll make sure to put a link to those in the description box below as well. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today while we celebrated Haley's graduation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And thanks for stopping by Grains in Small Places. Goodbye.